All right, NBA season is underway. I'm going to run through each team, give a quick opinion, and discuss some season-long future bets I've made on regular season win totals, division winners, also some awards bets too, like MVP, Coach of the Year, Most Improved Player. I did pretty good with last year's futures. The Magic and Thunder division bets were big for me. All of the future bets I've made so far this season are listed on a spreadsheet that's posted in the Betting Network Discord community. The Discord is also where I post all my personal bets I make. I call them best bets. Looking to bounce back after last year's terrible NBA season. I had my first official losing season since starting the Discord and posting all my personal bets 5 years ago. NBA last year was just brutal. Between just bad bets I made, I had a ton of player news go against me. Seemed like every night at least one team I had a bet on had a key impact player scratch from the lineup before tip-off. Thankfully, I did really good with NBA player props, winning almost 40 units alone. So combined between player props and future bets, it bailed me out a little bit. But player props and futures are kept separate from my best bet records. The best bets consist of only spreads and totals. Really, nobody should combine props with spreads and totals. Even though they're the same sport, they're completely different markets and bet types. Player props are much easier to beat than spreads and totals, and just doesn't seem right combining those records. Best bets are the only record I reference long term. So if someone asks me how I did last NBA season, the answer is I did bad. I lost 21 units, but members of the Discord know it wasn't all that bad. Okay, let's get into this NBA betting preview, starting with the Eastern Conference teams. I'm going to try to edit this into chapters so the 5 people that watch these videos can skip to the teams they want. But I'll also go in alphabetical order here. So, starting with the Atlanta Hawks, the worst against the spread team last season, finishing just 29 and 53 against the spread. I bet the Hawks under 36.5 wins. They won 36 games last season, and I don't see how they improved from last season. Trae Young just can't seem to stay healthy. This team's very thin. They have a lot of projects, and any injury to the starting 5 is going to be big trouble. I hate this roster construction, too. They basically have 4 centers on a Quinn Snyder, like, running gun type team. It makes no sense. They lost Dejounte Murray, who made a lot of big shots to them late in games last year. I also think losing Sadiq Bey hurts them, and the other teams within their division have gotten a lot better. Orlando's better. The Hornets should arguably be better, so the Hawks don't have these like automatic wins like they may have had the last couple seasons. This Hawks team is just stuck in such a weird spot too. They've played in 4 play-in games the last 3 seasons. They're better, or I should say, they have more talent than the top 5 or the bottom 5 teams in the East. Which isn't really saying much because they're well behind the 8 teams in the East that won 46 or more games last season. They're just stuck somewhere in the middle or in purgatory, kind of. I think the Hawks have a real shot at being the first play-in tournament team with 50 losses. The worst record of any play-in team so far is 34 and 48, which was the 2021-22 Spurs team. They were the 10th seed, I believe. Yeah, 10th seed in the play-in. Hawks definitely have a shot at a play-in with 50 losses. And staying with the Hawks here, I haven't bet this yet, but I'm strongly considering the number 1 draft pick there, Zachary Razeshe, as Rookie of the Year. He's plus 850. Those odds seem good for a rookie that's going to get a lot of playing time. He should be a starter right out the gate. He's a good fit in this system. He can get out and run, which is what fits in this Quinn Snyder system. The last 7 Rookie of the Years have been top 5 picks, and this class of rookies doesn't have like a clear superstar. There's a lot of like off-the-ball role players, or at least some that are expected to be in their first pro season. 3 or 5 of the top 7 picks are going to face the challenge of actually getting enough minutes to matter in the Rookie of the Year race, too. The favorite right now is the 9th overall pick, Zach Edey. But I like the upside with the 19-year-old number 1 pick from France there, Shea, or however you pronounce his name, Zachary. Hopefully, he's a project that progresses quickly if I do bet him. I'll add it to the futures spreadsheet in the Discord. Okay, moving right along. Let's go to the Celtics here. We got the defending champs, my hometown ball club. They're also the favorites to run it back. And I have to agree here. I think this squad is just primed for a repeat. I don't see any downside or areas where they drop off. Besides maybe the championship hangover, which is a real thing, by the way. We've seen this with prior championship teams. The next season they come out flat, but I don't think that's going to happen with this Boston team when you consider the offseason that Tatum and Brown had. It's hard to imagine they both come out not hungry or I think they want to prove something after the way Team USA treated both of them, and it might be what they needed to come into this season focused. I can't play their over regular season wins because they might not even care about like the last 15 games of the season if the division and the seeding is already locked up. My only real concern with Boston is, of course, injuries, and that can derail any team. But, 1 second here, I got a source play coming in. But I mean, injuries specifically with Porzingis. The Atlantic Division has some solid bigs, and if Porzingis doesn't come back, or if he comes back and then gets hurt again, which is a likely scenario, and the ageless Al Horford starts to show his true age, this could be a real weakness for Boston down low that teams could exploit. Then it's going to really be a live and die by the three type team. But even still, I guess the Celtics, out of a lot of top teams, are maybe the only team I could see deal with an injury to a top three player and still not just be like devastated by it. But I got nothing on the Celtics as of now. Next, we got the Brooklyn Nets. They have the lowest regular season win total in the league at only 19.5 wins, but it's not because they're the worst team, at least not in my opinion anyway. I have Brooklyn better than Washington, but Brooklyn faces a brutal strength of schedule. They play in a much tougher division, and they might actually be a good against the spread team because the market seems to think Brooklyn is in that bottom two, bottom three team weight class with Washington, but I don't really think so. With Cameron, and Claxton, the three C's, they aren't what anyone would call a big three, but I'd take those three over a few other teams' core three players. They have a new rookie head coach, Jordi Fernandez, who was, I think, the Kings' assistant head coach, or maybe it was the Nuggets, or was the assistant with the Nuggets and then the Kings' assistant head coach. I can't really remember, but the Nets are really just in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. My cousin, Cooper Flag, by the way. Let's look at the Cavs. I'm high on Cleveland here. I have a couple bets involving this team. This team's built for the regular season grind. I like teams that have built up scar tissue from their failures in the last two postseason appearances. These are the type of teams that can make deep runs into the playoffs. I think Garland and Mitchell are easily a top 5 backcourt duo, maybe top 3. I really like Max Strus off the bench. Also think things are going to fall into place for the Cavs come late season because the Knicks and Sixers are probably going to be banged up. Now, I went back and forth on how to play this with the Cavs. I was looking at their regular season wins, but instead of taking over their regular season wins at 48.5 at minus 110 juice, I'm going to bet them to win their division at almost 2-1 odds. I can get plus 195. I think if the Cavs get to 50 wins, there's a very strong chance they win the division. So both bets are correlated, but one just has a much better price. I don't see many outcomes where the Cavs get to 49 wins or more and they don't win the division. And a big reason for this is because of how I feel about the Bucks, which I'll discuss in a minute. Also correlated to the Cavs winning the division is another future bet I have with Kenny Atkinson, Cavs head coach, to win Coach of the Year. If the Cavs win the division, I think Atkinson wins Coach of the Year. This was the best coaching hire this offseason, in my opinion. And when you look at Coach of the Year award, what is it really? It's like the most undervalued team award and the coach that happens to coach that team. It's a team that, surpasses all preseason expectations. And this is probably the reason why Coach Eric Spoelstra has never won Coach of the Year despite being Coach of the Year many seasons. Atkinson's going to get a lot of credit if the Cavs end up just being as good as last season. He's the only obvious change on the Cavs roster or with this team that returns all 10 rotation players. He's going to unlock the offense, put Spider Mitchell in position to have huge numbers, in my opinion. This Cavs team relies heavily on Mitchell. We haven't really seen this team with a fully healthy Mobley and Allen. And if they can stay healthy, there's a ton of upside here. I'd probably bet them to win the East if it wasn't for Boston standing in their way. Also, Cavs aren't very deep, and any long-term injuries to starters could really hurt them. Now, a big reason why I like the Cavs to win the Central Division is because of how down I am on the Bucks, which they're the favorites to win the Central. I bet the Bucks under 50.5 wins. Middleton's already hurt. They have no bench, so any injury to starters, you're looking at a huge drop-off to starter to like a league minimum contract player. And an injury to a starter on this Bucks team is very likely with it being the oldest team in the league. They're actually tied with the Clippers. The average age is 30. Lillard, Middleton, both are 33 or 34. Brook Lopez is 36, which, I don't mind a veteran team, but this team doesn't seem to care about the regular season. Doc Rivers, terrible coach. Preseason, they've already looked sloppy. Last season, the Giannis and Dame pick and roll never developed like many thought it would, including myself. And I don't think that got fixed or is going to get fixed anytime soon. It's not like they worked together this offseason. Giannis was busy with the Olympics, then he got married in September, so we can't expect the chemistry to, improve right away there. And this current version of the Bucks team is what we're going to get from them. Bucks have no cap room, no trade pieces. I project them around 45 or 46 wins, so under 50.5 wins is a decent-sized position for me. Let's get back to the alphabetical order here with the Charlotte Hornets, who finished last season with the second worst against the spread record, 33, 47, and 2 against the spread. The Hornets are one of the teams each year, or they're one of the teams each year that on paper I love, and potentially, their starting five is, potentially nasty, but it doesn't, these type of teams doesn't translate to them being any good, really. The Hornets have one of my favorite backcourt duos with LaMelo and Brandon Miller. They got Bridges at the 3. The problem is on paper is probably not what we're going to see on court. Grant Williams probably comes off the bench. Mark Williams, who was looking like a Rookie of the Year candidate a couple of years ago, is already out, has a bad back. As much as I like this team, I want nothing to do with them. If LaMelo rolls his ankle, this team probably tanks and tries to get the number 1 pick. Next squad up, Chicago Bulls. I like the Bulls. I like Giddey. He looked really good this summer in the Olympics. His shot looked smoother. I'm a fan of Lonzo Ball and anxious to see how he's worked back into the rotation and what he looks like, and most importantly, if he can stay healthy. I don't think he has another rehab in him if he gets hurt again. What's interesting with this Bulls team is they're listed with a regular season win total of 28.5 wins. Last year, they were 35.5. How are they 7 wins worse this season? I don't get that. I understand losing DeRozan is huge, but if Zach LaVine is back this season and fully healthy, I don't think we see a significant drop-off in wins. DeRozan and LaVine are basically the same player, and they took shots away from each other. AOD, he should make a leap this year and improve, especially with increased minutes. Colby White, he made a leap last year and probably should have won 6th Man of the Year. If the Bulls won more games, he probably does win 6th Man of the Year. If they get quality minutes, or I should say games from Patrick Williams, or if Patrick Williams and Lonzo Ball play 40 or more games this season, this team will go over 28 wins easily, in my opinion. They won 39 games last year. Now odds makers think it's a 28-win team, or 12 games worse than last season. I disagree there. I don't like Billy Donovan, though, the Bulls head coach. I think he's a bad coach, but he has some pieces to work with. Very versatile off the bench with Duarte and Carter. The Bulls can go with like a defensive-heavy lineup or offensive-heavy lineup. Let's go with the Pistons next. They've now tanked 3 years in a row and can't seem to get better than a fifth overall draft pick. And the result of tanking is the Pistons have a very young team, a very young, talented team. Cade Cunningham, he's officially legit. Jalen Duran gives them a real paint presence. Ivy, he's a solid two guard that plays both ends of the court. The problem here is they're being developed under the worst run organization in the league. No clue what this Pistons' direction is or their goals. Drafts, signing, trades, none of them make sense. They drafted Ron Holland, fifth, I think, overall, who's just this year's exact version of Asur Thompson. They bring in Tobias Harris and his $25 million cap hit. Tim Hardaway Jr. trade makes no sense. Don't see how he fits in this system. It's just an awful organization. They have multiple assistant coaches on $1 million contracts. They get rid of Monty Williams and then replace him with new head coach J.B. Bickerstaff. I don't think anyone thinks that's an upgrade there. Bickerstaff's underachieved everywhere he's been, even with good talent. Yeah, team's in the gutter. Let's look at the Pacers next. They made the Eastern Conference Finals last season and bring back everyone and then some because they didn't have Benedict Mathurin. And now he'll be back. Halliburton's probably one of my top three favorite players in the league right now. This is a deep bench. McConnell, Toppin, they're solid. Carlisle, top 10, maybe top 5 coach in the NBA. He's great at adjusting throughout the season and adapting to how teams try and defend them. Pacers played two very different styles of basketball last season. Only obvious weakness is the lack of depth at the 5 spot. Last season was Miles Turner's first healthy season, and they have no real backup for him. Unless you think like James Wiseman comes back from the dead. But if Isaiah Jackson's going to be relied upon for important minutes, this Pacers team's going to get killed in the paint. Let's look at the Heat. You can pretty much set your watch to Miami winning between like 46 and 48 wins. But this is a Jimmy Butler contract year. He hasn't played 65 games or more since he was with the Bulls. I think that changes this season, and he's going to play like 75 games and probably average 25 points per game. Only time in his career he played 70 or more games was his contract year with the Bulls. Jimmy's betting on himself here and think he has a big year. I'll be looking to bet a lot of his player prop overs, but Miami as a team is not a team I want to bet in the role of a favorite because their offense just disappears too often. You never have to worry about the Heat defensively. And I actually like their scorers too, so I'm hoping they do score more. Rozier's now fully integrated in the team with a full offseason. Jaquez has shown he's a legit NBA starter. I like their bench, Alec Burks and Kel Ware, and his upside and option to take pressure and minutes off of Bam should work out. The Heat have the best coach in the NBA. They have high upside to win the East, but Spoelstra and Jimmy have shown they don't really care about the regular season. So a big factor, in my opinion, is what this roster looks like come April and how the seeding pans out. Their division's getting better. You know, Butler is getting older, though. I don't see any reason to make bets on the Heat right now. But, yeah, something else that's worth noting. The Heat have been really good against the spread on the road, oddly enough. 26, 13, and 2 on the road against the spread last season. I have an idea of why that is, but I'm not going to get into that now. Let's look at the Knicks. Big story here was the Cat trade. I'm not a fan of it. I don't see how adding Cat to this Thibs system makes them better than they were last season. And I don't like losing part of the Villanova unit there with Dante DiVincenzo, even though you don't really need him when you've got Bridges and Hart. I understand losing the Julius Randle money and how that was a big part of this move, but it's not like Cat is a bargain. And if the Knicks or any team for that matter plans to go for the chip, you're going to have to spend and then spend more and flirt with that second apron no matter what. I don't like the Knicks bench. You know, what's their plan if Mitchell Robinson is out for a while? Especially now, I just saw, I think last night, Precious is hurt. So what are they now relying on Jericho Sims to give this team meaningful minutes? The bench is just filled with like defensive first Tom Thibodeau guys, and Speaking of Thibs, I don't know what to make of him. Super intense coach. He'll get max effort from whoever's on the court, but he doesn't seem to care or like know how to prepare for the playoffs. He's gonna have starters playing 40 minutes in like meaningless games before the playoffs. It's like he only knows how to coach in one mode, and it's coaches players into the ground. I think they're going to be a good regular season team, probably really good against the spread, especially the first few months. They play the Celtics tonight. As of this recording, they play the Celtics tonight, so I'll be interested to see where both these teams are at. I like the Celtics in that one. Um, I know some pretty sharp NBA bettors who like the prices on Brunson MVP and OG for Defensive Player of the Year. Both are some long shots that probably do have value, but they're not long shots I'm looking at. Okay, we got 3 or 4 more teams in the East. Let's look at the Magic. The best against the spread team last season, 51-31 against the spread, and they accomplished that with superior defense. I had them tied as the number 2 overall defense to end last season. The Wolves were number 1, and the Celtics were tied at 2 with the Magic. So the defensive side of the ball is solid, but they didn't add any scoring, which is what I hoped they would do. If they added a shooter, I'd be a lot more excited about this team. Like, if they got Zach LaVine, or this might even sound crazy, but even like a Kyle Kuzma, I think would have actually helped them a lot and been a good fit. You got Banchero's 3rd season. I expect his trajectory to keep going up. NBA Rookie of the Year to NBA All-Star last year. Not a bad first 2 seasons for him. I like Orlando. Defensive-minded team that's built for the regular season. You'll get max effort on a nightly basis. Just not sure about seeing them in a playoff series yet. I'm not sold on Suggs, too, who just got an extension. If Orlando had a point guard with a little bit more of a scoring punch, I think it would do this team wonders. Really like Jamal Mosley. He's been a great head coach and becoming a even better head coach. Next team up, we got the Sixers, who are part of the 4 quarters of the favorites to win the East. The Celtics are the favorites to win the East. Knicks are the next favorites at plus 325. Then you got the Sixers plus 400, and the Bucks aren't far behind at plus 600. Those are the 4 favorites. Everyone after that is almost 3x longer odds. Surprisingly, the Sixers were really good against the number last season, finishing 48-33-1 against the spread, but I want to find ways to bet against this team. They're not a team that gives a shit about the regular season. Embiid's not going to be playing back-to-backs. The same's probably going to be true for Paul George. I'd be shocked if Paul George plays 60 games. I don't like teams that think they can just turn it on and, come playoff time. I don't think we've seen a single example of a team sleepwalk through the regular season and then just switch it to another gear come playoffs and it work out. Sixers seem like they're all in on a championship run, and if that's the case, it's got to be now or never. They have one of the oldest rosters in the league, average age at 29. Sixers have a really weak bench. 38-year-old Kyle Lowry at point guard, backing up Maxey. Then you got Reggie Jackson. It's going to put a lot of stress on Maxey. Sixers do have a top 5 coach with Nick Nurse. Really like him. Speaking of Nick Nurse, his former team and one that he won a championship with, the Toronto Raptors. I had the Raptors circled and ready to bet their under 32.5 wins, but before I actually bet it, their center, that dude, Jacob Poeltl, he came out and said how Toronto has no plans at making a playoff run, which isn't a shocker. It's a clear rebuild for them. But him publicly saying that did impact the Raptors' win total. It dropped down to 30.5, which I still do like the under, but I loved it at 32.5, especially now when you think about some of the pieces they're probably going to cut loose if they aren't competing for a championship. I might still bet under 30.5, and if I do, by the time you're watching this, it'll be posted on the spreadsheet for members in the Discord. All right, we made it to the last team. And it definitely isn't a saved the best for last here. It's saved the worst for last. The Washington Wizards are the worst team in the league. I bet under 21.5 wins for the Wizard. Based on my preseason power ratings, I only have the Wizards favored in 5 games this entire season. And that's actually being generous, too, with situational factors, with the Wizards having a rest advantage in 2 games, getting 2 teams playing road back-to-backs. The Wizards are very small home favorites in those situations. I'm not sure if this Wizards lineup is the worst lineup in the league, but it's the worst constructed lineup. They have a bunch of the same players, like Holmes and Bagley are the same exact player. They're the third tallest team in the league, but they try and play up tempo with pace. They have huge contracts. They're carrying probably the worst contract in the league with Jordan Poole. They have so many question marks. They got the number 2 draft pick with Sarr. He looks like a big project, and if he ends up panning out, it's probably not going to be for another year or 2 down the road. He's very raw. It's definitely a rebuild year for the Wizards. But then again, can you even say a team is rebuilding if they've been rebuilding for like 5 or 6 years? The Wizards' regular season total, win total this year is listed at 21.5. They won 15 games last year. I don't see how they improved 7 games this season. I'd probably still bet under wins if it was at 17.5. So definitely going under 21.5. That's going to wrap up my 2024-25 NBA Eastern Conference betting preview. Stay tuned for the Western Conference betting preview. I'll have my MVP winner bet, most improved player bet, some more regular season win totals, division winners, and more. If you don't want to wait for them, join the Discord, get access to all the bets I make in real time, plus all the educational betting lessons, tools, features, and much more. It's free to join, but you'll just get limited access. But for full pro membership, it costs $50 for 90 days, and that's 90 days from the day you join. Hope to see some of you in there. That's all I got for now. Until next time, good luck with your bets.